And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. That's right. I said welcome back because I know in my heart of hearts that you were just listening to our stuff and you loved it so much you wanted to come back for more. Excellent decision. You're a genius. Ooh, fantastic. We have a lot more for you. Now, why do we have a lot more for you? Because this is the podcast that's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And our guest today is a podcaster. You cracked the code. Folks are geniuses. I'm telling you right now. Way to go. This is the place where we come together to raise each other up. This is the place where the rising tide truly raises all ships. So let's get sailing and bring in our guest today. Please welcome to our show the host of the, get ready for it, Shit That Goes On in Our Heads podcast, an award-winning mental health podcast, folks. Please welcome Gretchen Schoser to the show. Gretchen, how you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Love it, love it, love it. Now, is it okay if I call you Gretchen or would you prefer G Rex?
Oh, you can call me Gretchen.
Okay. I love your stage name. I really do. All right. So as we kind of get rolling, we have a lot to unpack. There's a lot to your story. Why don't you go ahead and just kind of get us started? Tell everybody who is Gretchen, what are you about, and what brings you here?
I am a podcaster. I'm also a small business owner, and I also host another podcast. I co-host the Survivors podcast because you know what?
Oh,
I don't have enough to do in my life, so let's like just add more work onto my podcasting history. But like our podcast, shit that goes on in our heads, didn't come about until January-ish of 2023. So on Christmas Day 2022, I attempted suicide. And at the time, I was probably within 20 minutes of being alive or being dead. And thank God for 988, I'm alive today. If that woman, so the woman that answered that phone was the most compassionate person I've ever spoken to in my life. I had a lot of really horrible things happen to me in a very short period of time. And, you know, here's the thing, at 59 and a half, we were all told that we should not talk about what's going on in our head. We have been all told our entire lives that you just suck it up and you just move along with your life. Well, it's all well and good until like it has no place else to go. I had a couple of things working against me. I'm an extrovert and I'm an empath. So I wasn't taking care of myself, but I took care of everybody else really well. I was superb at that. And so, like after the call to 988, I went downstairs and I talked to my wife. Nobody knew how depressed I was, not even my wife. We'd been together for 28 years at that time, and she had no idea how depressed I was. And so the next day, I opened up onto social media because I didn't want anybody to feel as afraid and alone and terrified as I did. Opened up, I had about 200 people reach back out to me and say thank you because now they felt seen and heard and that they were terrified. These were people that I'd worked with for, 16 years and had zero idea. So that was my first healer. My second healer was my co host, Dirty Skittles. She was my manager at the time. I use the term super loosely because I retired in April. But we would call each other every morning and we would laugh about stuff you should never, ever, ever, ever laugh about, ever. But here's the thing about laughter is it gets rid of the cortisol. It gives you some serotonin, it gives you some endorphins. And so no matter how crappy your day is, you can go back and reflect on that conversation and start laughing again. And so then you get that immediate high from the laughter. So that was my second healer. So it was during one of those conversations, she's like, "Hey, we should do a podcast." And I'm like, "Okay, let's do a podcast." And so that was on January 14th. On February 14th, we released our first episode, and we did that in honor of my mom. I had buried my mom 1997 on Valentine's Day. So, as part of my healing, I wanted to change the trajectory of that day because forever it had sucked, and I didn't want that day to suck anymore. So, Dirty Skills is like, "Oh, we're going to do like 3 episodes and be done." Okay, joke was on us, literally on us. They're like, "Nobody's listening to us. We're just going to do this." Well, April comes around and we already gained 10,000 downloads. Once again, who is listening to us? I
wow.
still want to
Nice.
know.
Yeah.
So we started to like bring guests on because for the short period of time in season one, it was like family and friends and just the two of us. And so we started bringing these amazing guests on, and they were sharing these really healing stories and giving us resources that like we didn't even know about. And so, fast forward to September, October of 2024, and we got two awards. We won the People's Choice Podcast Award for Health, and we also won the Women in Podcasting Award for Mental Health, Best Mental Health Podcast. We're like, wow, okay, I guess we're doing things right. And then December 17th rolls around, and we gained 1 million downloads. Like once again, like who is listening to us? Because we are not clinical by any means, like the exact opposite of clinical. And, just felt very fortunate that we get to do this. Still love what we do. And we had a guest on our podcast, and we had just hit it off. And she is a suicide loss survivor. Me as a suicide attempt survivor, we just really hit it off. And so we decided to create a new podcast. And that podcast is called The Survivors. And it's two types of, survivors, an attempt survivor and a loss survivor. And we just talk about suicide awareness and getting the message out there. So kind of goes hand in hand with the shit that goes on in our heads. And then, amongst everything else, I opened up my own business in January of 2025. And, just so thankful and so grateful for our guests and our listeners that we get to do this every day.
What a story. I mean, wow. You unpacked a lot. Let me kind of get caught up.
Okay.
The at first, sorry about your loss with your mom. I
That was
understand.
tough. That was
Yeah,
tough.
yeah. Um, on the other side of the coin, congratulations on your 1 million downloads and your awards and everything. I mean, that's fantastic.
It's
Congratulations on all that. That's huge.
it's huge, but it's crazy. It's just all of it's crazy. Just crazy.
Your show's hilarious. So, I mean, anybody who finds you is going to have a good time listening to it. So, I mean, doesn't surprise me to hear these numbers. It's cute that you're surprised by it.
It's called anxiety, but we're all good.
Okay, I got you. And then on top of all of this other stuff, I didn't realize you had the second podcast. So, congrats on that also. How far along is that? How many episodes have you had in that one?
We are in season two, episode like 5. We just uploaded a bonus episode. I had never seen my co-host in person for the survivors, and we went to Salem this past weekend. Met her in person, stayed at her house for a couple of days, and we recorded a bonus episode. So there's a bonus episode out.
Nice. Have you guys together like that?
Yeah, it was
Yeah, that's
so
cool.
cool.
That's very cool. All right. So we've got two podcasts going then. And then your business that you founded. Tell us the name of the business and what that's about.
So the name of my company is Schoser Talent and Wellness Solutions. And, it by the time January rolled around, I'd worked for corporate America for 45 years and I just couldn't do it anymore. I am certified and a subject matter expert in UKG recruiting and onboarding. And so I do implementations and system reviews for customers. And then on the other side of that, I do some mental health advocacy work with companies. You know, um, Part of the problem that we have in like companies today is like with change management. They never really think about employees' mental health until like it's too late. And so I am working with companies to ensure that they are keeping a watch for burnout and stress management and making sure they have the resources, for instance, the 988 crisis hotline available to available to their employees, and making sure that managers and team leads and even employees have some sort of mental health training in case there's any type of crisis at work.
Wow. So you go around to these companies and kind of market this as a program that they
Yep,
implement. That's the thing.
sort of like that. Like I'm working on some workshops and things that Employers can send employees to just learn about stress management, or just how to identify stress, or if somebody's in crisis. Because in today's like society, the world is absolutely on fire, and absolutely 100% on fire. So employees don't have just their normal day-to-day stress, but there's a lot of external factors that are coming into play, and that really affects companies' bottom line.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think anybody could fight with you about the fact that the the world's on fire right now. So yeah, and obviously, I mean, mental health. I mean, anytime you talk about that, it's always overlooked. No one ever gets what they need with
Nope.
that, it seems like. And I just, even after all these years of, us talking about it and trying to bring attention to it and everything else, somehow it just still gets, swept under the rug. Nobody pays attention to it, oh, buck up. And, you know, it's just, I deal with this a lot with the men that I coach, also in, mental health for men, because that just doesn't even exist. But then, I mean, everywhere, it's just an unbelievable absence in our marketplace. So I love that you created a company to deal with this. That's fantastic. It's very needed.
And I get to do the things that I love, right? Like I worked in corporate America for 45 years. I know how they treat employees 100%. But I did work for one super awesome unicorn company that will never be duplicated, and they did things right. So I can, at least coach companies on how to look at just the basic things.
That's really cool. You've actually had an example of how to do it right. Most of the time
Hmm.
we only have the opposite.
Yeah. I worked for Ultimate Software for 13 years before they got acquired by Kronos, and truly a unicorn company, like the best
Nice.
of the best.
Nice. Nice. I'm glad to hear that. Now, you are a real advocate for the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline.
I am.
Your connection to that and how you feel about it and what people should know about it.
So here's the thing with the 988 crisis line. Not a lot of people know about it. And it's not just a crisis hotline for suicide ideation. It's for anyone who's truly in crisis. For me, on Christmas Day 2022, I had suicidal ideation. I was literally sitting there with a handful of pills. I was within 20 minutes of taking my life. I had remembered about 2 months ahead of time that I had read an article about 988. The number's only been out for 3 years, and it's a quick and simple call. So if you or anybody you know is in crisis, call that number. They have trained counselors, trained therapists. They can get you the resources they need. Like the lady I spoke to, she was able to give me information on how to find a therapist. And calm, cool, collected, and it's free and it's anonymous. And so if you're here in the states in the US, states in Canada, you can call 988. If you are in another country, there's another resource you can use. It's called the helphub.co. They have all the crisis lines throughout the world listed on that site.
Hmm.
Huge advocate for them. They save lives every day,
Including yours.
including mine. And
Yeah.
like I said, I am thankful to be alive every single day.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, I'm glad that they were there for you.
Me too.
That's important. Yeah. All right. So we founded a company. We got a couple of podcasts going. All right. I mean, this is awesome. Where'd you get the name? Uh, and I'm not talking about the Survivor podcast. I get that one.
So, during the time that we were like talking about the podcast, there was a lot of shit going on in my head. Like I could not get my brain to turn off. And so we tried like all different variations of shit because apparently it's still a bad bird. Can't really use it on Google, can't use it on Apple, can't use it on Spotify. So we played with that for a long time and finally just ended up with the exclamation point for the I.
Hmm.
But every time we thought about it, we would just laugh because it truly is like we just have all this shit in our heads, and like sometimes we don't know what to do with it, right? Like, and that's part of like the mental messiness that we all go through. Like, oh, well, could we call this? We tried a couple of different other names, but like this one just kind of rolls off your tongue.
Okay. Great story. I love it. Yeah. So as I'm listening to your podcast, of course, you show up and you have a nickname on there. You want to
I
tell everybody
do.
what your nickname is and who your co-host is and how that works?
Yeah. So my code name is G-Rex. And the reason for that is I am all of like 4'11". I have very short arms. And it was a nickname that, I was given to me as a kid. So I just kind of used that nickname. And then my co-host, her nickname is Dirty Skittles. And her story's even way better than mine. During her like beginning job, she was working between two jobs and living out of vending machines. And she really loved Skittles. So she was leaving her one job, shoved a bunch of Skittles in her pocket, and went off to her next job. She was starving, and she pulls the Skittles out of her pocket, and they fall on the floor, like in front of her coworker. She was starving. So she goes down on the floor, like picks up the Skittles and eats them. And her coworker at the time, he was like, "Ooh, dirty Skittles," and she's used that name for like over 20 years now. So
It's amazing how certain things stick with us, from decade to decade. All right, now I noticed that. Then I also, upon further review, as I started listening to some episodes, you had guests come on
we
who
did.
were then codenamed, just to name a few, Honey Badger, um, Bizzle, and Crazy Eight. So my question is, does everybody get a code name when they come on your show to be interviewed, or are these people just special?
So we give everybody the opportunity to either use their real name or use a code name because a lot of times people that have come onto the podcast have not shared their story with even their loved ones. And so
Ah,
there's some
okay.
anonymity to that.
Anonymity. All right.
And that's part of the reason that we don't release video. We only release audio unless we get special permission. So like that's happening in the next couple of weeks. But so like Honey Badger is a really close friend of ours, and she really is a honey badger. Bizzle is Dirty Skittles' husband, and Crazy Eight is Dirty Skittles' dad. He's a licensed therapist, and so we
Wow.
just thought Crazy Eight was such a great name for him.
Nice. Okay. My next question is it about anonymity? It's like written right here, a note. So I thought honestly, that you were just having a good time at first, but then I wondered if it was an anonymous thing. And I didn't realize you didn't do video. So you really are trying to protect identities and let people tell their story in a safe place.
In a safe place. And
Mhm.
but if they ask if they can have the video to put up on their website, we will give it to them. But we don't do it for every episode because anonymity is really important, especially if you're talking about mental health, because there's still so much stigma about around that. There's so much shame, and people feel weak because they're asking for help or telling their story. And for us, we don't want to ever make our guests feel uncomfortable. And
Got it.
so they have that opportunity. You either use your real name or use a fake name. We don't care.
Now, you don't seem to be worried about protecting your identity or anything. So it's not about your anonymity. It's really about the guest.
Well, in the beginning, it was about protecting my anonymity, but like the more I did it, the less I cared. Because for me, I'm so close to the retirement age, right? It doesn't matter, like for me, but for Dirty Skittles, she has about 30 more years of work. So we never wanted to say or do anything that would put her in a predicament with a future employer.
That makes sense. Okay, good deal. All right. So we're okay having used your name today, because otherwise I
Yeah.
need to go back and take some stuff out.
No, you can use my name all day
Okay.
long,
All right,
all
good.
day.
Just want to make sure we're taking care of you guys. So, all right, excellent, excellent. I mean, that's just sort of wow. All right. I love what you're doing, first of all. And as I listen to the episodes, I know that you say you really want to make folks laugh, you want to make them cry, you want to make them think. Um, I did all those things, but most notably, I laughed, and it was funny. I mean, like, legit funny, not like stupid funny or anything like that. It was legit entertaining. And I'm sitting here going, oh man, this is awesome. I like this. And so I'm taking notes and stuff to come, interview you. Um, does that go back to the whole cortisol thing that you're just trying to like make people feel better and help them get over some of these issues? Or are you really just trying to be funny?
Well, it kind of works both ways. When you talk about really hard stuff, it's good to have some levity in with those conversations because in life, hindsight is 2020. If you can't laugh about the shit that happened 20 years ago, then, it's just going to stick with you. So when we talk to our guests, and we do pre-interviews with all our guests, and we just let them know that we like to have a little bit of laughter in with our conversations, and they all agree that laughter really helps tell the story. It also makes it a little bit easier for our listeners to digest because some of the topics we talk about are really tough, hard topics,
Yeah.
and so a little bit of laughter goes a long way.
Nice. Nice. That's a very good point. So as you've grown this podcast to over 1 million downloads, which again is just staggeringly awesome for you. Um, how do you guys go about promoting the podcast? I mean, we'll do a little podcast talk for a minute. How do you promote it? What has worked for you? What has not worked for you? And has the name presented any issues for you?
The name, surprisingly, that's what attracts a lot of guests is our name. They're like, and then they go and listen, like they go and listen to a couple episodes, and they can see like it's just a casual conversation, with a couple of friends. It's like sitting around the fire pit shooting the shit. But it's just trying to think of like a good way to phrase this. It's Can you ask me the question in a different way? Because then I'm going to be able to think about it.
It's totally fine. Um, and I gave you like four different questions all at once, so that's on me. Uh, Really, if you just break it down, especially given the name, I was curious if that impacted you promoting it.
Oh,
Sounds like it's a big thing, but how do you go about promoting the show?
okay.
What has worked well for you, and is there anything that really just has not worked for you in terms of promoting your show and getting the name out?
So one of the things that it's a very cautionary tale for all the podcasters out there. There are a ton of podcast promoters that will reach out to you on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. Don't do it because all they do is take your money and then they get you like your hand slapped by your hosting company for, not real numbers.
Yeah,
So for us, the way we do it is, number one, I'm an extrovert. I have a bazillion freaking friends out there. So when I let them know I was doing a podcast, I just, got them all engaged and I got out onto my personal, Facebook page because, I blurred the lines really quickly. And, just started telling people about our podcast. And then, one person listens and they tell five other people and they tell five other people. And I think also having the kinds of guests that we've had on, they also promote our episodes. So we're a little selective about who can and cannot come on the podcast. That's why we do the pre-interviews because we don't want to waste anybody's time. And like I think our biggest place has been Instagram Reels. I Believe me, okay, I am gonna be 62 next week. I cannot do TikTok. I tried, it's not gonna work. Okay, not my genre.
no.
Not happening.
You
Not
and I do
happening.
not. You and I do not belong on TikTok.
No, no. But like we also do like a faceless. We have a faceless YouTube channel, so our episodes are also on YouTube. We do that for two reasons. One, we have a lot of deaf listeners, and so with YouTube, they can turn on the captions and read the podcast.
Mhm.
So if you are an audio only podcast, I would strongly suggest that's something you do. You know, at least get a YouTube channel because they can turn on the captions and deaf listeners can, now read what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's a great
So
idea. Yeah, it
uh,
is.
so we that's how we got a lot of listeners also. But also just promoting. I promote all our episodes. The day that they go out, a couple of days before they go out, I put like social media posts out that are going to be what that episode is about. It's a lot of work, and like I want to,
Yeah,
like I said, I'm still trying to figure out how we got $1 million. All right, like, uh,
I love it.
but I think that just being super humble about it, it it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of dedication, and something that's funny about that is, my wife would always say to me, she's like, I've never seen you work so hard on something you don't get paid for. But when you're passionate about something and you really have a message that you want to get out into the world, it's never about the money, ever.
Right.
And so the other thing that really helped us too is in November, we got picked up by a podcast network.
Okay.
So we got picked up by Believe.
Uh,
And the funny story about Believe is that they like were after me for like 7 months. And I kept looking at them, and the thing with Believe is that they're predominantly a sports network, but they are expanding their profile to like lifestyle. And so like by the time October rolled around of last year, I was like, oh, okay, you know what? I'll give them a call. They were talking and talking and talking, but they have 700 podcasts underneath them, and they're under the Cumulus umbrella. So that really helped our numbers as far as promoting and
wow.
things like
Yeah.
that. And then came January 20th. And since the 20th of January, our listenership has gone up over 60%.
Wow.
And that's worldwide. We're listened to in over 100 countries now.
That is fantastic. I'm so happy for you guys. That's just great news to hear for anybody.
I,
I love seeing podcasters succeed. That's like way to go.
it's still crazy and gives me a ton of anxiety, but it's all good.
Nice, nice. Now, is Believe, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. I'm just curious about it. Do you pay to be on Believe? Do they pay you to come on board? Do they offer you services? What's the
Oh,
relationship
yeah.
like with
So
them?
the relationship with them is amazing. I work with a guy by the name of Cam, and we get after we get advertising revenue. And for us, the mission was never about making money. Never has, never will be.
Hmm.
But like we got like a $5,000 check the other day. I'm
Wow,
like, okay, well this works. But
nice.
they will also help with networking. They help us with getting guests that we can't get because they have keys to a kingdom that most podcasters don't have.
Good.
And they're really fair, and they take all our suggestions, and always reaching out to make sure that we're doing okay. And they're a great network to be under. I know there's other podcast networks out there, but if somebody like approaches you and says, hey, I have a podcast network, you know what, take a look. Like, because for me, it took 4 months of emails before I like even booked a call with them.
That's great. I love that. Really and truly, that's again just fantastic. I always ask everybody about their monetization, and I heard that you had ads on the on your program. So the ads are placed there by Believe Network.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Yep. I don't have to
Gotcha.
do nothing. The only
Right.
thing I have to do is my editor uh, tells me what the timestamps are
Hmm.
so that I can put those timestamps into when I'm putting the episode up. And then they put those into those time slots. Because if you listen to the podcast now, you're going to notice that like words aren't being cut off.
Okay. I got you. That's wonderful. Now, in terms, I always have to ask this dreaded question now, and it's just because of my own personal feelings on the topic. But I know it's a good thing for podcasters. Do you guys utilize AI in any way in your podcast? And if so, how?
The only part of the podcast that we use AI for is when I'm creating show notes.
Okay.
So it creates the initial show notes, and then I just rewrite parts of it.
Mhm.
And then I also use AI to create our newsletter.
Okay.
We have a newsletter that goes out before every episode, the day before the episode, and we also create a podcast reflection worksheet, and we use AI to create those worksheets so that people can go back and reflect on what they listened to.
Interesting. Okay. So you're building up anticipation about the episode through your uh, newsletter,
Yep,
through your email list, I'm assuming.
yep.
Okay.
And we really use that newsletter to showcase our guests.
Nice. Let them know they're coming on, and then
Uh,
they come on, and then you
yeah,
promote it after it's out. All right,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
absolutely wonderful. Because you guys are a weekly show, is that right?
Well, we are weekly, and we just now moved to two episodes a week.
Okay. All right, gotcha. So you were weekly though for all this time moving up
for all
here.
this time.
And you built all of this on a one time a week show.
On a one time a week show.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's really awesome.
And just, well, we've had some really cool guests too,
Right.
so that helps.
Now I know I have heard a lot of the guests on there, so I know that you do the interview, style with someone coming on and talking. You guys still do solo episodes, right? I mean,
We
solo with you and Dirty Skittles, but
So at the end of every season, we do our solo episodes, and we just kind of recap every all the guests we had in that season, and kind of like what's going on with us, and what we got out of the season. Funny thing is that we get as much out of our podcast as our listeners do. It's free therapy for us. So thank you to all the guests that have come on. Uh, it's it's just a great way for us to reconnect with each other. And to this day, we still talk to each other every single day, even though we don't work together anymore. And we record one Saturday a month, and we record 7 to 8 episodes one Saturday a month.
wow, nice. No, I've worked with a couple other people in my coaching programs who have co-hosts. And so I understand that there's a dynamic there for sure. And I love that you two love each other the way you do. It's obvious and clear just listening to you on the show. But what are some of the benefits of having a co-host? And then what are some of the negatives of having a co-host?
I don't have any negatives of having a co host. I think that one thing that could happen potentially with anybody out there that's thinking of doing a co host is make sure that you are compatible, like in both your sense of humor and how you ask questions and how you really want to drive your show. Um, for us, it just worked really well having a co-host because we really like the banter between the two of us really helps the show. And if you can do that with like your best friend, it's a win-win. Like so, there are Saturdays we will laugh, cry, almost wet our pants, but we walk away feeling empowered at the every Saturday. And even when we do like our like standalone episodes, we are getting ready to do one in a couple of weeks, and so we're gonna post out onto social media for Ask Us Anything, and we'll answer your questions on the when we do that episode.
Nice. Nice. That's a great idea. How is the shit that goes on in our heads podcast different behind the scenes than the Survivors podcast?
So the behind the scenes for shit that goes on the heads, I am 100% it. Dirty Skittles is a mom and works a job and is a wife, and I'm gonna call myself semi-retired, even though I have my own company. So I do everything. I do the marketing, I do guest acquisition, I do the scheduling, all that. On the Survivors podcast, it's just the two of us, and we don't do interviews. And so my co-host Lisa does all the editing of the episode, and she does all the social media. I'm in charge of doing like show notes and getting it uploaded to our hosting company. And I'm fine with that because uh, Dirty Skittles told me the other day that I should have been a talent manager because I find all this amazing talent to come on to all these amazing guests to come onto the podcast. And a huge shout out to Podmatch because of
Yeah.
Podmatch, I get a ton of amazing guests from Podmatch, but I also get a ton of guests that just email me out of the blue or go out to the website and like put in a contact form. I have no idea who they are. And I don't realize that they're out there until I go out to like upload a new episode and try and figure out like when did I interview these people? Because like I said, I do all the pre-interviews and um, I don't mind doing it. The only thing I don't do for shit that goes on our heads is I don't do our editing, our audio editing. That all gets done by our editor Noel in Australia. And why did I choose Australia? Because the conversion rate is so much better.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he's amazing. Like if you go back and listen to episode 1 of the very first season to what we have now, the sound is so much better. And it just makes it easier for us. I think the one thing we may do is we currently record off of Zoom, and we may end up start changing that up and going to Riverside.
I'm right there with you. It's folks like us who who have just gotten comfortable with Zoom. We've been using it for so long, right?
Yep.
That we just don't want to change. I've been podcasting forever, and I've been using Zoom since moment one. It's just easy.
Yeah.
And now it's like they had an update, and it just glitches all over the place. Have you encountered that with Zoom?
Yeah. With Zoom,
Like,
yes.
where did that all come from? You know?
Like because they incorporate so much AI into it, right? I
Mhm.
don't need AI when I'm recording. I need AI when I'm editing
Mhm.
or if I need a transcript or something like that. So like I'm kind of toying with Riverside on that right now. The reason that I'm still kind of on the fence is that, we book our guests. I do my podcast interviews and then we book our guests onto like whatever recording date it's going to be.
Mhm.
We are booked with guests until July of 2026. So
Wow,
to so to
that's
have to
awesome.
go so to have to go back through and
Oh
change
yeah.
all the links, like I don't know. So like if you're a podcaster out there and you're like having this like existential crisis like I'm having right now, like write out the pros and the cons of like why you would want to move.
Yeah, I'm not booked out that far, but I have one podcast that's 7 days a week. I have this one which is five, changing it to six, and then I've got another one that's three. And so I use a lot of content, and so I'm in kind of the same boat where I've heard about Riverside. Think maybe it's time to change, but I'm with you. I'm like to go in and manually change my entire calendar. It's just like
It's
you got to
like
be kidding me,
who number one, who has time for that? Okay. Like
right?
I don't have time for that. And then to remember like on the days that you're recording, because like I said, we record, 7 to 8 episodes one Saturday a month.
Mhm.
Then I have to remember, did I give them the right URL? Are they sitting in the
Right.
Zoom meeting? Like I'm old, okay? My mind doesn't work as fast as it used to. It just doesn't. It makes me want to hire somebody to do
Oh, I'm telling you, I'm sorry that there's somebody else out there going through the same pain I am, but
it.
wow, yeah. The only thing with Riverside I've heard from several people that it's kind of glitchy, and it's got some bugs or whatever.
Right.
I think there's horror stories with everything, but that is the name I keep hearing. Is Riverside is like the next step up. So,
It's so we use that platform for the Survivors podcast.
hmm
And, Lisa loves doing it. Lisa, because it makes editing super easy, but, it's kind of like Descript. I use Descript for a few things, but,
hmm
just trying to find the right tool in your price range because, as I do, podcasting is not cheap.
right,
It's,
exactly.
it's not cheap.
And not everybody's monetized.
Yeah.
And certainly not everybody's getting $5,000 checks
Yeah.
sent to them. So yeah, it's something you have to consider for sure.
Yeah. Find the tools that work for you. If you can get away with free hosting, find a free host. Just remember that you get what you pay for.
Hmm,
So you may not get the best analytics if you go with the free plan,
right.
but do your homework. The other pitfall that I ran into also is like I didn't know anything about podcasting, absolutely nothing. And so when I was looking for assistance, when our first few episodes were coming out, people wanted me to pay for their services. Listen, no, that's not going to happen. I'm going to sit here and figure this out and I'm going to fail and I'm going to be fine with it. So, like, one of the things like I do on my side is for anybody that wants to do a podcast or is interested in it, that's a free service I do.
Oh,
They
nice.
can just go out to my website and let me know, hey, I want to start a podcast. Like, what can you know, how can I help you? I can
Sure.
do that for free.
That's nice of you. All right. That's excellent. All right, it's time for my corny question in
Okay.
here. While you and I are comparing notes and bagging on Zoom. When it comes to doing your podcast, and you can answer for both podcasts or either, doesn't matter.
Okay.
But when it comes to doing your podcast, What is it about doing your podcast that you love the most? And what is it about doing your podcast that you just absolutely hate the most?
Okay. The thing I love, love, love the most is to go back and re-listen to the episodes and um, get the transcript and then create the really awesome show notes and the newsletter, especially for shit, because I'm so passionate about the topics. The thing I hate the most for shit is the scheduling part because it's a freaking nightmare. Um, and it used to be that I hated guest acquisition, but that's so not a problem right now that it's not
Right.
even funny. On the Survivors podcast, I love everything about it because for me, I get a little bit of free time back because all I do is upload the episode to Podbean. I do the show notes and I do a little bit of website maintenance for us. But Lisa loves to do the editing part. Good for her because that no, homie don't have enough hours in the day to go back and do that for everything with shit. It just doesn't. It's not going to happen.
Love that.
It's so not going to happen.
Love that. Is there anything that you hate about doing the Survivor podcast? I'm just curious.
No, the
No?
Survivor, like I said, the Survivor podcast is easy
No.
because number one, we don't have guests. It's just Lisa and I. It's a short 30-minute like recording. We batch record for 5 episodes every 3 weeks, and it's a different type of podcast than like an interview style podcast. So it just makes it easier.
Nice. I love that. Absolutely love it. I love everything you're bringing here today. This is just awesome stuff. And it's pretty clear to me as I'm sitting here talking to you and we're comparing notes on things, why you're so successful.
Oh,
I mean, you're very, very efficient. So, all right, as we kind of, bring this thing in to just a little bit of a close here, and I love everything that you've done. Like I said, what I usually like to end with a question about what is your best piece of advice for podcasters out there who are not quite where you are yet?
all right. It's gonna be compromised of like a couple of things.
Go
Number
for it.
one, be consistent. If you say you're gonna release your episode every Tuesday, release your episode every Tuesday. If you need to take a break, at least make sure that you have something teed up that can go out while you're out. You can always go back and replay like you know past episodes, but stay consistent. Number two, engage with your listeners. Like if they DM you on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or whatever, stay engage with them. If they say give you a great comment, say something back to them. Because that will help get you more listeners to your podcast. And then the third thing is just be super self-aware of yourself. Like if you are trying to portray something different than your normal everyday self on your podcast, just stay consistent with that. But my final piece of advice is have fun. Have fun because podcasting is hard work and people don't realize until you break it down the numbers for them how much work goes into putting an episode out. And you know what? Also be proud of yourself for doing it because not everybody picks up that microphone, gets on a Zoom, and does a podcast. If you're passionate about something, keep doing it. Because here's what we're doing we are changing the world one conversation at a time. And the nice thing about podcasts is that we are listened to all over the world. We don't have any geographic boundaries. And we get to do this. So like be proud of yourself for doing what you're doing and put your heart into it. Like don't be sloppy with your work. Put your heart into it because it shows.
Nice. Absolutely wonderful. Wow. All right. G Rex. otherwise known as Gretchen Schoser, host of Shit That Goes On in Our Heads and co-host of the Survivors podcast. Gretchen, thank you so much for coming
You're
in
welcome.
here, telling your story, sharing everything you have with everybody. If somebody didn't get something out of this episode, they weren't listening. So I appreciate you very much. Thanks for being here.
You're very welcome. Like I said, thank you so much for having me. It was such a great conversation.
Love it. I hope you had fun.
I had a great time. An
Awesome.
amazing time.
Folks, this has been another awesome episode of the Podcaster Nation. And the reason we get to have these wonderful guests on here talking about all these fantastic topics is because this is the podcast. It's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And once again, today we prove that this is the place where the rising tide truly raises all ships. So keep sailing.